Hi, and welcome back to Guff Stuff Weekly Podcast. I'm Javan.
And I'm Guff.
Guff,
Yes.
today we're going to talk about your favorite thing of all time.
Oh, well, I don't think we're going to talk about that, but
Oh. Well,
we're going to talk about my children and my wife?
No.
Oh,
No.
okay.
No.
What are we talking about?
I want to talk about something you've wanted to talk about for a while, and that's board games.
Yeah, I like board games.
We've talked a little bit about board games we've played in the store,
Yep.
but I want to talk a little bit about kind of the evolution of board games / talk about some old board games and what they did compared to like what some of the new ones do.
Right.
And just a full disclaimer, I'm not an expert on board games by any means. I've played a few. Guff, you've played quite a few.
Lots, yeah.
Probably more than me.
Yeah, probably. I give a few years on you. So
Yeah.
20 years you might have catch me.
Maybe. But yeah, so let's talk about board games.
Yeah.
So let's start at the bottom.
Right.
Or not the bottom, but the start, so to speak. I'll start.
Yep.
One of the first board games I remember playing and really, really enjoying were games which I consider like checkers and chess.
Right.
Chess is a little... There's like a highfalutin thing with it, but
Right.
chess and checkers are kind of what I started with. And then like Sorry and Hungry Hungry Hippos.
Right.
You know, like...
Yep.
I should say it was like the Hungry Hungry Hippos and Sorry that I started with. And Rock'em Sock'em Robots. So, like, initially the first games I feel like I played, and when you're a kid you play, aren't even necessarily, like, strategy-based.
Right.
But it's just, like, how fast can you hit a button.
Yeah,
basically.
Hungry Hippos. That's literally what you do.
Yeah,
You're
right.
Smashing that paddle.
But there's also a point where you can be, like, if you wait and don't hit it as fast, you can, you know, there's that realization that, oh, maybe there is some sort of strategy
Right.
involved.
Right. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, no, I we've done a podcast similar, just for reference reasons, so people don't get confused. We have done a podcast about our games that have kind of defined how we have done things, but
Yeah, true. Yeah,
this is more
inspiration.
about how the games have changed over the year. I'm assuming, right? This is
I'd like to talk a little bit about that, but through our lens
Yep.
of playing games.
yeah, for me,
I'm not a historian of board games by any means.
right? No, neither am I. I know that I played a lot of old board games, and that was a big deal in my family to get together on weekends and weekdays and just play board games. That was like the big thing. We'd go over to Aunt's house and we'd play board games. And so between the two families or three families that we went to, my two aunts and our house, we had a lot of board games in the house. And I'm pretty sure my mom still probably has 100 plus board games. Yes, she might have sold some off rummage sales now, but I guess some of the early ones I remember playing, probably a little different than some of yours. I mean, I did play Hungry Hippos and stuff, but that was kind of towards the later portions of my childhood. But we played things like, we never really played much in chess and checkers. I always wanted to, but nobody in the house really liked playing that. Because my aunts and them, and my mother and them had evolved to actual board games. Does that make sense? Like, games that actually had, like, boards.
Oh, like their own
Yeah.
board, like Monopoly.
Yeah, like Monopoly and things. Well, they didn't play Monopoly, but they played Game of Life was a big one.
Life was fun. We played that a lot.
There's a game called Careers. Believe it or not, Dungeon.
Oh yeah, we've
That's
talked about that.
kind of got me into the whole D&D thing too, because I was a young kid when my aunt bought that first copy. I'm guessing it was probably either late 70s, early 80s.
Okay.
I'm not 100% sure where the Dungeon board game came out, but her copy is super old.
Okay.
And I remember playing that. That was a huge board game. And you didn't need to know a lot other than basic math and learning how to count on two dice. Like, that was it.
Yeah.
And I think board games back then were literally... I think after playing, Hungry Hippos and Don't Break the Ice and Hi-Ho Cherry-O, and I don't think it was called Hi-Ho Cherry-O when I was a kid, but it was called something else. But it was the same concept, putting little bead or little things in little cups and trying not to... I think a lot of that stuff was literally geared towards when you were with your children to teach them things.
Yeah.
That would be my guess. Now... Like, even Careers, which was a game based on, or life, based on what's going to happen when you become an adult.
Yeah.
Like, it's like...
Well, So the cool thing about like careers in life is that it teaches cause and effect.
Right.
In a pretty straightforward way.
Yeah.
Of if you go to college, you're gonna make more money later.
Yeah.
And it like that's a message we have or whatever, but like the fundamental thing that it teaches is cause and effect.
Yep.
And so one of the cool things about these older board games, kind of evolving now from like the Hungry Hippos and the like just hitting a button as quick as you can to you talk about life and careers and like High Q was another one that we used to play.
Yeah, that was
had to move
one.
the pins and stuff. It teaches you go from a game of just pure like almost carnival level skill.
Right.
Like can you throw the hoop on the stick, you know, stuff like that. Ring toss, all that. Mm-hmm. You go from this like almost dexterity based skill game to a game of just pure choices.
Yeah.
And that's where you get into like checkers and chess.
Right.
There's no randomness to checkers and chess.
No, it's
completely calculatable how many moves there are.
Right.
And it's usually a clearly defined best move. You can attribute points to things and stuff like that. But long story short, you get into these games of this is kind of where it splits, right?
Right.
You have these like dexterity based carnival games. You have these pure decision based strategy games. But then you also have games like Life that have strategy and Monopoly that have strategy and long-term planning, but a random element as well.
Yeah.
You can't guarantee that you're going to land on Boardwalk and be able to buy it.
Right.
But on the dice roll, you might get it. And then you have to play...
Yep.
So it teaches you to... These games like Monopoly and Life teach you that whatever random element you get, how to turn that into... something profitable.
I've seen that now that I'm collecting old board games. It's kind of been a little bit of a side hobby, just to go to a
lot of cool ones in the shop.
I buy them and I'm like, oh man, these are cool. And lots of these are from like the 50s, the 60s, and 70s, and they're like, or even older. All of those board games were literally. It looks like in my mind, because there's one about how to vote for presidents. There's one how to manage your finances, how to play the stock market, and Monopoly, literally how to buy properties, and But I mean, it's like, and then there's the evolution towards the 70s and 80s and the 90s when that was board games were necessarily not an adult thing, because I'm guessing not many kids played the finance board
High Q or
right. It was mostly a adult thing, and I think that's where I got to when I was that's why I played a lot of board games that were not necessarily meant for kids. They were like the dungeon board game was kind of meant for younger people, but not like kids, I don't think.
Yeah, and so there's in my mind there's like a tier system to it as well.
Yep.
Where like when you're young, you want to play the games of just pure random chance and carnival dexterity skill.
Yep.
And then after that, you get to a game of like a little bit of randomness, but some strategy. That's when you like to play Life and Monopoly. You know, when you're probably 8 to 12.
Yep.
You start playing that kind of stuff. You don't really still know what's going on that much. But then once you get like to the final tier, I find that a lot of people that play chess and checkers really like that there's no randomness to it.
Yeah,
they like that it's purely my game plan versus your game plan, and no random element is going to have anything to do with it.
Right, yeah, no, because it's literally how much you know about how everything works in the game.
Exactly.
It's knowledge.
Which is really cool, I think, and that's why strategy games like Minesweeper and Sudokus and all stuff like that, there's a group of people that really like that.
Oh, yeah, no, yeah, I live with one that loves that stuff.
Because it's all analytical. There's no chance involved.
No, yeah, it's literally, you can just... I know my wife loves that Minesweeper game, and like when we first got married, that would be like her off time between whatever. Just if she's sitting there watching TV, she's just playing Minesweeper on the hardest difficulty, the hardest settings.
Yeah, and
she just it was literally to see how fast she could beat it. It had nothing to do with whether she was going to win or lose, because she knew she was going to win. It was just a matter of how fast can she win. I'm like, what do you do? I can't even get past like level 1 because my brain doesn't work like that. I'm more the smash button type of guy.
Yeah. And it's funny, too, that's almost like a spectrum, right?
Yeah.
Like, I am definitely do the choices, avoid the RNG.
Yeah.
But I also really love the RNG stuff.
Yeah.
But I'd like there to be impactful strategy decisions as well.
Right.
But if it's just a pure game of just rolling dice to see who gets the highest number,
yeah,
I'm not too keen on it. I'll play it probably and have a decent time, but I'd much rather have something that has a little weight to it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, and that kind of going along with the theme that we're trying to shoot for here, I think that was at least my childhood with yours. And I think that, I don't know, modern day, we're kind of hitting another era of game boards.
So, in about the past 20 years,
I consider modern day.
Yeah, modern day. And
board games have changed immensely.
And there's a few games, like key games, in my mind, that changed the way board games are played.
Yeah.
So, the first one I want to talk about is
It's the one you don't like?
So, I want to break it into like a few of these things.
Yep.
So, there's like worker placement games.
Yep.
Where you have X amount of workers, you place them. Typically, other people can't place it on there.
Yep.
And then you get that resource.
Yep.
And then you use that resource to build or buy more workers.
Yeah, beg, borrow, trade,
Whatever.
Yep.
So that's a really common archetype, overarching theme in these games. Yep. There's also the archetype of a deck builder. I believe, I could be wrong, but I'm almost certain Dominion was the first true deck builder.
Idea. Yeah.
And it's this idea that there's a communal pool of cards that everybody can buy from, but once you buy the card, it's removed from the pool.
Right.
And then it goes into a deck, which you then shuffle and draw, and you can remove cards from your deck. It's kind of this like, it's like playing a Magic draft in 20 minutes.
Right.
It's a really cool concept. And then there's games that combine both of those. There's also games of like, exploration games.
Yep.
Like, I think of like Betrayal.
Oh, yep.
The Betrayal series, where it's like, I guess we'll call them miniature games because like you have minis and like stuff that goes with that.
Well, that's evolved too, because back in the day everything was either the simple pawn like you would see in Sorry was basic. The basic. I mean, I'm pretty sure the guy who created that pawn put it in every board game for probably 50 years.
Which is funny because we, not to interrupt,
or at least
but we have a similar thing to that.
Yeah.
Now
it's Meeples.
It's the Meeple. Yeah, exactly.
Now it's the Meeples. Yeah, Meeples are in almost every board game now, and it's kind of funny how that works. But yeah, no, we're definitely hitting, and it's good. I like how it's going because now, and the games we're talking about, Dominion and some of the other ones, even Legendary and DC Deck Builders and
Ascension.
Baldur's Gates, Ascension. I mean, these other games,
Everdell.
Yeah, all these games,
Scythe,
are literally not made for just adults. Most of them are not made just for adults anymore. As long as you can read and do basic math, you can play these games.
I mean, we would be just absolutely destroyed if we didn't mention Ticket to Ride.
Oh, yeah, Ticket to Ride.
Which is like probably one of the biggest... Ticket to Ride and Catan are probably the two biggest games in modern era bringing board games back.
That's why you never see them on sale. They're never discounted.
I also throw Munchkin in there, too.
Their prices held since day one. Yeah, Munchkin, same thing.
I throw Munchkin in there because Munchkin was such a ubiquitous game. Like, every friend group had a copy of Munchkin.
It's the Monopoly of the modern era. It makes you hate your friends and table flip without actually table flipping.
The other one I completely forgot about was the Apples to Apples style.
Oh,
games,
yep.
Which Cards Against Humanity is the adult version of that.
The adult version, yeah.
But the Apples to Apples where you try to...
Yep.
So you say something and then people secretively try to make you pick their card.
Yep.
It's kind of like a blind pick game.
Yeah. No, that's a pretty popular system. There's actually quite a few like that now.
Yeah, and there's been like spin-offs of even like some of the games. And
Yep, yeah, and then we get then there's that. Well, gosh darn, yeah. There's a lot of genres that we just didn't have when we were growing up, and we have like Exploding Kittens too. Fast play games that you can play 10 rounds. Like, okay, we've talked about this in like Magic, and we talked about playing a 4-hour Commander game or playing a 20-minute Commander game. Like,
yeah.
What would you rather do? You can play 5 20-minute games in an hour. In an hour.
Oh, Resistance is another big one in my mind, or the werewolf or Secret Hitler, or
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah, all
games
these.
they are.
Yeah, no, and it's such a nice.
Those are the bluffing kind of party games. It's basically Among Us.
Yep.
Which is crazy to me that the Among Us phenomenon happened.
Yeah.
But it happened before on the board games.
Yep.
With the Secret Killer.
I just kind of now it just exploded onto the both worlds now. Now it's digital and non-digital. Mm-hmm. So. But
I guess another one that's another style of game that really gained some popularity. It's not every gamer that plays it,
right?
But the people that play it really love it,
right?
And that would be I call them basically grand strategy games,
right?
So this would be your games like your monstrosities, like Twilight Imperium,
right?
Or Firefly board game.
Yep, Star Wars Rebellion was
Star Wars Rebellion.
That had a billion little tiny pieces.
And also in the board game thing, there was the whole idea. And I don't know when this came about, but this is a relatively newer feature in board games. The whole idea of a legacy game.
Oh, right, yeah.
Like Charterstone or Gloomhaven.
I can tell you for sure that we didn't have legacy games when I was a child.
I know Risk Legacy was one of the first ones I had heard about.
Probably.
Because it was the idea that you play several Risk games over the course of whatever. But I was actually talking to my mother, and she was in school back in the late 70s, early 80s. And she was saying that they had a Risk League in their high school.
Oh, jeez.
And that sometimes you'd like be able to carry cards over. So maybe there was this like idea of a league or something like that, but then you could just make rules for it in a specific board game.
Interesting. Yeah, I never had that. I wish we would have. That would have been really cool. I know we had people playing chess, and
I was told it was very popular.
That would have been fun. Speaking of Risk and those, I've seen now that some of these other games have been so popular, and it's kind of sad to say, though, that I don't even remember the last time I heard somebody say they played a game of Risk or Axis and Allies.
Oh, I totally forgot about Axis and Allies.
Right, I mean, these are games that I used to play a lot when I was young.
My brother plays so much Axis.
Does he still play it?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah, because he's got the Pacific plus European theater that you could put together. And it takes like 3 days to play it.
Oh, gosh.
Like, it's
That's
crazy
awesome.
Cool.
Well, yeah, maybe we'll have to play it sometime in here.
A weekender.
It's a fun. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it's there's just so many games that have... It's almost impossible to keep up because now anybody... With modern tech and modern age, you and I can go out, create a board game, find a manufacturer, get it printed... And it's just put it out.
We'd be completely remiss to not mention Kickstarting too.
Oh yeah.
Like the idea that like we can come up with an idea for a board game.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right.
The lay person can come up with an idea for a board game that's really compelling and really interesting, maybe even license an IP, and then all of a sudden get funding for it for people that are interested in that.
Yeah, and it's crazy. I love it. Like in my mind, there is no better time now to be a person that's interested in board games. Just as much as you might like video games or online tech, the board games are something you really need to consider and get into because there is so much variety out there.
Yeah, I mean, I know right now a buddy of mine and me are working on developing what's most likely going to end up being a board game.
Right.
And like it's so fun to just sit down and talk about things and really look at like all the different board games that have been made. You look at something like Twilight Imperium that is just so gargantuan in scope, but honestly like tells a story every time you play it, and it's just really cool. Like it's really cool, such a undervalued word for what it is. Like it doesn't do it justice.
Right. No, I agree. It's crazy, and it's been fun. Yeah, no, I don't know what else to say about all of that. I think that we're in a golden age of board games, and I think that there's no better time to get into it. Board games, and okay, I mean, we've talked about a lot. We missed the whole board game genre of like escape room board games now.
Because I haven't really played a whole lot of those.
Escape rooms are kind of one of those things that are pretty huge now. Almost every town has an escape room of some sort, or even Rosewood did for quite some time.
Yeah.
But now there's companies out there making mock escape rooms that you can sit at your kitchen table and play with your family and friends.
Yeah.
And mysteries like unsolved mystery
So,
board games, and
It's really funny that you
It's
say
so
this
cool.
because there's actually the Amazon Echoes and stuff like that.
Yep.
They have a bunch of escape rooms where they'll describe a room to you.
Yep.
And you say what you want to do, and you can interact with it.
Right.
So there's even I don't know if they're procedurally generated or not, but
Probably
I'm sure
AI
we're probably
to some extent. Yeah.
we're probably going to end up in an era soon where AI can procedurally generate.
Oh yeah,
Escape rooms.
it's crazy, and
But yeah, it's a whole genre we didn't even talk about.
no,
And the war games, like Risk and
yeah, Axis and Allies.
Axis and Allies. There's another one I was trying to remember, but
Strategio is a war game.
Oh yes, we played Lord of the Rings Strategio.
Yep.
Stratego.
I played that as a kid a lot. That was one of our favorite games to play.
Or remember, Guess Who?
Yep.
That was a really interesting game.
Yeah. Yeah, until you learn the hack, then it wasn't so
That
interesting.
everyone, yeah.
Thankfully, as a kid, I didn't care about a hack, so.
Clue
I
was
just-
another fun one. We completely failed to mention Clue.
Yeah.
The games of deduction, right?
Yep.
So it's kind of funny because you have the deduction games. Like I guess that is like a whole genre of
Yeah.
games, isn't it? The mystery game.
Right. Well, Trivial Pursuit.
The
Speaking
trivia
of,
games are
That
huge.
has been getting to be that's kind of been nice because when I used to play Trivial Pursuit when I was a kid, like Trivial Pursuit was not nice as a child.
This is difficult.
That was like we get original old school Trivial Pursuit, and we bring all the gamers in here. I'd say it's safe to say some of you would get some of the stuff right, but most of it's so old and so just obscure.
I think we did a version from the 80s
Yeah.
on Tabletop Simulator, and like only two of us were like getting anything.
Yeah, and I used to play the original one, which was pretty much anything from any time in history.
Yeah.
They take the most obscure crap. Now, though, they have things like we have one here now in the store that's a D&D Trivial Pursuit,
Which I really want to play.
which is really fun. Yeah, it's fun, and I think if you've ever played even a bit of the Dungeons and Dragons or any of the video games, you'll do okay.
Yeah.
There's still some really obscure crap in there. Don't get me wrong. There was a few that I'm like, okay, I have no clue.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a whole other genre of games that just I don't know. There's so many. It's
And
so
then-
fun.
Dungeons and Dragons also, Wizards of the Coast, I should say.
Yep.
Starting in 4th edition,
Yep.
they started releasing board games to go along with like
Yep. Their tabletop.
their
RPGs.
tabletop RPG, which was really cool because for all the crap we give 4th edition, and well, I guess we don't really give it crap.
Right.
There's a lot of bad things said about 4th edition.
Yeah. Everybody shoves it underneath the rug because
Yeah,
like,
it's like they imagine 4th never existed. They go right from 3.5.
yeah. They don't even talk about fourth anymore. Holy
Yeah. But 4th edition was actually designed with being a board game in mind because everything was a power.
Yep.
Everything had an action.
Yep.
If you wanted to swing your longsword, that was a specific power as a fighter. And so when they ended up coming out with these board games and having like the Drizzt Do'Urden one and like this
Yeah. There's
of them.
tons. Yeah. There's Ravenloft one. There's
Ravenloft is a
the
big
Wrath
one.
of a Shardlord. There's all kinds of them. We had a few of them here
And
over the years.
it's really cool because a lot of them were actually compatible with like 4th
Yep.
edition. You could actually run them alongside
Yeah.
a module.
Yeah, in fact, I think the one we have in the store is definitely you could.
And they did continue it kind of into 5th edition, but they didn't keep it exactly the same.
Right.
Where 4th edition, the rule set was specifically designed to feel like an MMO or feel like a tabletop
Right.
strategy board game.
Yep.
But yeah, the minis you get out of that. Oh, also the minis you get in board games. Can we talk about the quality of how that's gone up?
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. We should tidy up with the granddaddies of some of the games that we have that have upped everything. I'd like to start with Gloomhaven.
Gloomhaven
Gloomhaven went
definitely-
from right now Gloomhaven is like the big beast game. It has fully they're not painted. You have to paint the minis themselves. In fact, they encourage you to paint the minis themselves. But they have tiles. They have it's like 30 pounds of a game. It's
a
ridiculous.
lot.
And then there's Frosthaven right after that. And then one of your favorite games, Scythe.
Scythe is pretty
I
awesome.
mean, there were some beautiful miniatures in there. Like those are nice miniatures. I know you bought the upgraded ones.
So the minis are stock,
Right.
but the coins and all that.
Yeah, you bought all the upgraded
all
people
the-
looking.
Yeah, the peripheries that you can get
Yeah,
for
it's
board games,
just-
which we have talked about before.
Yeah.
But like putting it in context is huge, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, you go from like having little square houses.
Yeah.
So Monopoly
Right.
had the old pewter minis that were your tokens. That was about
as
the most
fancy as it
wild
got.
thing
Yeah.
you got,
Yeah.
right? But yeah, and then you get into games like you said, like Scythe.
Yep.
Even Talisman actually had pretty decent minis.
Actually, yeah, I have a lot of minis in Talisman.
Which Talisman was a really cool game because it was, what if you were to do a D&D campaign in like 4 hours?
Yeah.
But it's like a Highlander where it's
right.
Everybody can only be one. You know? Talisman was a really cool game that had a very awesome feel to it.
Yeah, there's a lot of games out there, man. Lots and lots of games.
But there's no shortage of board games, and board games are almost becoming like video games where you have indie companies pumping them out.
Oh yeah.
And so the amount to choose from. But I think the biggest issue with board games that people have, and that the common person might not be getting into them, is that you do need a dedicated group of people to play them.
That helps.
And unless you have a space to play them, somebody's house, a game store, it does get to be a little difficult. But luckily we have local game stores. And every single local game store I've ever been in has had a shelf of store reference materials that anybody off the street can come in and play in. If you hear any background noise, it is currently
pouring the craziness out.
I can't tell if it's hailing. That's hail.
Yeah, that's hail alright.
A little bit of hail coming down, about pea-sized hail coming out. But anyways, I think that's enough for this episode.
Yeah.
Play board games.
Before the power goes out.
Play board games, have fun.
Yeah, absolutely. I love them. You should too.
And we'll catch you guys in the next episode.
Later.